I'm Pamela from fibersprite.com. Today I am on live and I am working on weaving yardage on my Saori loom. Be sure to drop your comments and questions in the chat below. I'm excited to share with you and help you out with any questions you might have. One of the things that I am practicing today is catching my shuttle in a more ergonomic way. So when I catch, if I catch overhand, that's going to rotate my shoulder and cause a lot more stress on that shoulder joint. But if I catch underhand, that's going to be a lot more ergonomic, friendly on my shoulders, help prevent any repetitive stress injuries. So I'm working on that, and I'm also working on keeping a rhythm. I want to keep this nice and even. I want this to be what's called a balanced cloth. Essentially, everything is squaring up properly. So I'm counting the rows of this white yarn to 15, which doesn't go very well with tucking, to be honest, but I'm also eyeballing it a little bit. So I'm going to count here real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then I'm going to do one row of this blue. So I'm creating sort of a really subtle check pattern. And one of the things when I'm weaving, I tend to, I did it again. I tend to assume that if my shuttle is coming from the left side, then I'm going to be using my left leg to treadle. And if it's coming from the right side, I'll be using my right leg to treadle. It's a really quick and easy way to keep track of things. But because I'm doing two different colors, things get off. And so that's where most of my mistakes are happening with this project. So it's really easy to spot it when it does happen because there are two layers that like stack right on top of each other, and then I have to undo that part. And now I'm ready to advance the warp real quick, and I'm just gonna check and see if there are any questions. Come around here and see what you guys got for me. Hey guys. It's not actually that difficult. It's really simple. This is really the simplest cloth you can make. It's plain weave, over, under. This is a really fairly simple loom. It only has 2 shafts. I'm going to advance the warp here. This is what's called a Saori loom. They're manufactured in Japan by the Saori company, and there's a lot that's interesting about them. This particular model is collapsible, so it folds up into a really narrow area. That makes it really easy to transport and to store. You can fit it in your closet when you're not using it. It also has a lot of modular capabilities to it, which is really nice. There I did it again. So when I make that mistake, I just unweave it and then switch and redo. I'm trying to pay attention to my selvedges here, but I'm not being too fussy with them because this is going to be yardage for a shirt, most likely. And so the edges are going to be tucked inside the seams. So I don't need to be perfect about the edges, but if I maintain an even edge as I'm weaving, it's going to help me out in the long term. One more, switch colors. if you're new to weaving, I have a lot of tutorials on my channel. I just finished a series on knitting, which is a totally different topic. But if you go back a few months, I have a lot of technique videos that tell you how to set these up and to plan your own. It's really, really fun and relaxing to do this once you get the hang of it. And I really encourage you to give it a try. It just gets a nice rhythm. And I am here at Artisan Tide Gallery and Gifts in Holden Beach, North Carolina. And I do weave here, demonstrate, and give lessons. So if anybody's interested, definitely come on by and check us out. Okay, so I went one too far on this one, so I have to undo it. Got carried talking. Carried away. Talking to you guys, I'm not seeing the wrong one. Other way. And again, it's time to advance the warp. When I am advancing the warp, I try to keep these shuttles out of the way. The extra weight on the fabric can kind of mess things up a little bit. Maybe. So there's, at the bottom of this loom, I'm putting my foot on this brake, and it holds everything in place until I'm ready to move it. And I want it to move just enough to maintain that even tension, but give me space to weave with. So now that I have advanced that, I'm gonna see what you guys got for me again. Beautiful arch in my foot. I took dance for a long time. A giant pot holder. Yeah, it is kind of like making a giant pot holder, and that's how I started when I was a kid. I loved to make those pot holder loom pot holders. I think my grandmother had a drawer full of them. There is a little bit of juggling happening when I'm working with two shuttles here. It really isn't that bad. There are times when I will work with like 6 or 7 and you're kind of like, where do you put them? And they get in the way and things like that. But this is fairly easy. You just sort of wrap them around each other when you need to make a switch. One of the things that I always keep is a screwdriver, and you want to tighten up any of the screws anywhere on your loom at least once a week, sometimes more. This particular loom is kind of giving me some trouble in terms of like holding the tightness of everything, of the warp in particular, and that might have to do with the way that I set this particular warp up. That could be operator error, but one of the easiest fixes is to go through and tighten all the screws. And you wouldn't think that tightening the screw here is going to impact how things are holding tension back there, but it does. So making sure that everything's tight on your loom, it's also going to keep everything square, which is really important when you're making a nice even cloth. all this is a lot of practice and muscle memory. So getting used to what it feels like to get that even beat on this clock, what it feels like to throw the shuttle. I mentioned at the beginning, I'm practicing catching underhand rather than overhand. That's going to reduce the chance of repetitive stress injuries. And keeping that rhythm so that things will go nice and smoothly. If this seems like something that you're interested in giving a try, I have lots of videos on my channel. I've got a couple of different playlists about how to set up a loom, how to plan your project, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, comment on one of those posts, be sure and subscribe. Right now I'm working on a series about this warp and how I planned it and what it's going to become. So if you're interested in that, be sure and follow along. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.